such as the active shooter threat and other things, when all is said and done, it's a very large footprint, and every piece of it, every member of it, has a specific task and reason to be there. I want to be clear on this. This isn't an either or an or else. There's no implied message here that if we don't get this money, we're going to do any less security than it is required by the job and our conferrals with the Secret Service. But there is the theory that Trump's security trumps politics. This isn't about political considerations. This is about doing the right thing for the city of New York and its police department as it is being impacted by what is a very collegial, very collaborative, but ultimately unfunded federal mandate to protect an individual who's about to become our top federal official in the United States. So that is kind of the complex nature of this and the extraordinary cost that the city is bearing. And our plea to our delegation, but to all the members of Congress, that as they move forward with a renewal of a continuing resolution, that gives them the opportunity and the chance to do the right thing here in terms of New York City and its partnership with the federal government in this endeavor.
Okay, and our next speaker, we are fortunate that Nita Lowy from our delegation is the ranking Democrat on the Appropriations Committee that will be making this decision on the continuing resolution. And we are going to be working very hard as a delegation to make sure that the Big Apple does not become the broke apple, and that we receive the $35 million to cover the cost of the police detail. It is the only fair thing to do. I do want to note that she will be followed by Gregory Meeks from our delegation, who was just elected to the Steering and Policy Committee. So, Nita Lowy.
Well, first of all, I want to thank my colleague Carolyn Maloney for bringing us together. It is a pleasure and an honor for me to be here with Commissioner John Miller, my colleagues Nydia Velasquez, Jose Serrano, and Greg Meeks. I spoke with Chairman Rogers, the Republican chair of the Appropriations Committee, just this morning, and made it very clear this is not an option. The New York taxpayer should not be picking up the cost of protecting the President-elect of the United States of America. He understood. Joe Serrano and I on appropriations will continue to make this clear in the final hours, we hope, of the CR, which we expect will be, you never know, we expect it will be completed by this evening. But all of us have made the case. It is absolutely essential that this money that has been documented by New York City, led by Commissioner Miller, to the tune of $35 million, is absolutely essential. I walked on Fifth Avenue. I took a look at what was going on. You saw at every intersection, policemen. They are fulfilling their responsibility to the City of New York, to the United States of America, in protecting the President-elect.
Office of the presidency and the responsibility of protecting the person that's going to be the next president of the United States, no matter who he or she is. And so it just seems as though that then means that the burden should fall on all of the people of the United States, not just the people of the city of New York. So what this issue really is about fairness and equity. It's about making sure that there is a fair share of the cost of protecting the person who would be or who will be the next president of the United States. And I think that you heard in the remarks of Commissioner Miller, is not asking for something that's extraordinary, something that is just done a careful evaluation of what the costs are. So it's not trying to just get something out of the federal government for the sake of getting out of it. New York City, clearly, and the police department of New York City does its job, and as he indicated, will continue to do its job. So it's just coming to the members of Congress as we are about to pass a continuing resolution to say that we have, to one degree, the fortunate pleasure of having the next president come from our city. First time we've had somebody elected to the presidency of the United States from New York City in a long period of time. But as it was in Chicago, as it was in other areas where other presidents have come from, where there's an additional cost to the city because you have the president-elect, the federal government has always kicked in its fair share. And that's what this is about. So I thank the commissioner and the people of the police department for coming up with an accurate and fair count of how much it's costing the taxpayers. And look forward to and hoping with especially my appropriators here, working together with you to make sure that fairness is just had. And all of the people of the United States share in the security of the President-elect of the United States.
Thank you. That concludes our press conference. Are there any questions? Can you identify who you are and what press thing? Yeah.
So Jen Vasquez with NBC. For the Commissioner Miller, if you could just talk about just any information on long-term plans and costs for securing the President-elect and his family while they're still at the Trump Tower, even after January 20th.
So there are two subjects here that are distinct to us. One is a 3-month period where the President-elect, who is protected with nearly the same security as the President of the United States, is there from the earliest days of November to the early days of January. That is one chunk that counts almost every day. The second distinct matter is what happens after he assumes residency at the White House, the office of the President, and that is dependent on a number of factors we can't gauge right now. One is, how often does he come back to New York? Is it once a week? Is it twice a month? Is it once every few months? And that's not an answer we have. One thing is certain, which is the footprint that goes with securing and moving a sitting president as opposed to a president-elect is even more complex. So I would like to separate these from a cost that we can quantify down to the dollar, and one that we can't right now, and focus on the first one, because that's the check that's on the table.
Okay. That's our first goal is this continuing resolution. We will be voting on it this week, and we must have it in the continuing resolution. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Hi, another question, Commissioner Miller.
And you are?
Ben Siegel with ABC News.
Okay.
Just given some of the logistics with Trump Tower, where it is on Fifth Avenue, the deal with the lobby, is this for your purposes? Is this one of the more difficult places to secure in the city?
If I could have picked a place to secure, it might have been among the very last for all the reasons you state. But I also think the mayor has been quite clear on this, which is he is the President-elect of the United States. He gets to pick where he lives. And if that is in the heart of New York City, we have to figure out how to secure that. And we're willing to do that. What we're here today is to ask for help in doing it.
Yeah, we definitely need help. Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Marissa Schultz, New York Post. Another question for Commissioner Miller. Can you talk a little bit more about the consequences of not getting the money if you're not successful with that? And what else are you doing besides this press conference today to reach out to members of Congress to
So the consequences of not giving them resources are finite. It's a finite budget, which means if we weren't spending this money on this, we would be spending it on something else. That would be crime fighting, gang issues, crews, public safety, Vision Zero, reduction of gun violence. And there's a finite number of people, which means if those officers weren't standing these posts and those traffic agents weren't working those checkpoints, they would also be somewhere else. So this is, a relatively long-term deployment that's very expensive because it comes with a lot of layers. Even the specialized units, whether it's the bomb detection K-9 or the SWAT teams that we refer to as emergency service units, or our special weapons teams from counterterrorism, would be on another post. So the only way to mitigate that are two things. One is hiring more police officers, or the other is, and this is the common quick fix for temporary issues, is creating more appearances of police officers by using overtime. Whether that means 12-hour tours or putting people on 6 days in precincts where officers have been pulled into Midtown, and that's where the taxi meter starts to run up in terms of overtime costs. So those are the effects that it's having, and those are specifically why we're asking our delegation for assistance. This conversation didn't start today. The mayor has been in touch with our delegation, with our senior members, and had these conversations. I'm here today simply to facilitate that conversation in terms of helping to bring you all, from Police Commissioner O'Neill, the details of the tactical end, the cost end, and why it's necessary.
Are you meeting with like Republican leadership today or anything?